Oswego Public Library District Board of Trustees. Roll call, please, Jim.
Conan, present. Deal.
Present.
Friedman.
Here.
Martyr.
Here.
Ramirez.
Present.
Hamblin.
Here.
Walters.
Here.
Now I have the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd ask our secretary, Jim, could you read our mission, please?
The Oswego Public Library District exists to provide quality library service which will effectively meet the informational, educational, recreational needs of district residents of all ages, with a special emphasis on supplying popular material, providing reference services, and assisting students of all ages in meeting their educational needs.
Thank you. Happy New Year, everyone. Welcome back. Happy 2024. I saw something the other day that I thought was appropriate and said a lot. It says, quote, "Sure, I go to the library for books, but also sometimes I go just to exist in a space that's welcoming, organized, comfortable, judgment-free, and run by knowledgeable, helpful, passionate people, because that energy is straight up medicinal." We have a presentation tonight. Andrew Kim, the Director of Public Finance for PMA, has taken a look at the library, the way we do business, and he's back to present some ideas to us.
Sure,
Mr. Kim?
absolutely. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. So over the last several weeks, maybe a couple of months even, Sarah and I have worked on this report for the library's financial health. And just wanted to give a very brief overview of the results of our forecasting model here. So the introduction here talks about the capital maintenance plan that was incorporated into the model. So the library has certain expenses that they're expected to make over the course of the next roughly 16, 17, 18 years in order to maintain the library buildings. The second paragraph there talks about, there are actually two versions of the model. One is, so the library has existing bonds that are going to mature in fiscal year 27, I believe. Actually, fiscal year 26. And so the idea is that there's an opportunity then for the library to borrow again, much like when your car loan expires. You either have the option to keep this old car and not make any new payments, or you can buy a new car at the same payments, or buy an even nicer car at elevated payments. So the two versions that we have here is when the old bonds mature or roll off. One is the library will borrow such that the payment stays the same as it was for the last, I think, 20 years or so. And that's $865,000 annually. And if the library were to do that and borrow for 20 years, it would net the library roughly $14.6 million based on interest rates as of a couple of months ago. Conversely, version 2 assumes that the district borrows $23.5 million in order to finance a $27 million project. So obviously in that case, the borrowing would be much larger, the annual payments would be subsequently be larger, and the annual payments are estimated to be about $1.82 million based on interest rates, where interest rates were a couple of months ago. So those are the two versions of the model that we have. The duration of the model goes out almost 20 years, goes out to 2040, because that reflects the capital maintenance plan. And then a lot of detail here about the components of the model, because you're in tax-capped counties and so forth and so on. It's some nuance that is all taken into account in the model. And so the first part of the model is the levy projection. So this is going to project out what the property taxes will be for the library over the next 16, 17 years. And again, version 1 assumes the $14 million borrowing $865,000 annual payments, and version 2 is the larger borrowing with larger annual payments. We had to make a number of assumptions regarding the library's profile, including factors in the economy like CPI, how property values are reassessed from one year to the next, how the value of homes might grow from one year to the next, the amount of new property that's established in the library's district. We assumed that was $20 million. And so, with all of these assumptions, let me go to the, this is the model that has the $23.5 million borrowing. By the end of the model in 2040, we are showing that the library's tax-capped property taxes would be $8.3 million. And including the borrowing amount, and so the amount that you would levy for the borrowing, your total tax levy would be $10.1 million. Nice figures to have, but the question is, what do those figures mean? In fiscal year 24, the library levied $4.9 million in the tax capped levy and $800,000 for its bond and interest levy, for a total levy of let's say $5.7 million. So in this scenario, we're going from $5.7 million up to $10.1 million, which is let me get to the, 78% increase over levy year 2022 property tax revenue. And then if we go to the other model, where it's $865,000 annual borrowing, we are at $9.1 million. The cap levy is $8.3 million, and including the annual payment for the bond interest, we'd be at $9.1 million. So, and then the question is, well, how does that impact taxpayers? And so that's going to be a question of interest. So what we did is I looked at a home in the, let's see what's going on. A $350,000 home in the library in tax year 2023, which just concluded. The estimated tax bill from the library for that $350,000 home would be $275 for for the library's entire tax levy. In 2040, that same home, assuming it grows at 5% every year, would be worth $727,000 by 2040, and the tax bill associated with that would be $399. And that's if the library borrows money in 2027 in the amount to keep the bond payment the same as it has been. If we go to the other version of the model, let's see, that same home is $727,000, and the total tax bill would be $441. So about a $42 difference between the two versions. So given this growth in the property taxes and the fact that the library, the library's primary revenue is property taxes, the question is, how does that impact the corporate fund? And so we did an analysis of the corporate fund. And one comment I want to make about the corporate fund is that the library has had a practice, you can see, with these historical numbers, the library has had a practice of transferring all of its surplus, any surplus that it generates, transfers to the special reserve fund, such that there's zero fund balance in the corporate fund. From my experience with other libraries and other units of government in general, that's not a common practice. And I think most units of government leave some funds in the corporate fund as kind of an emergency fund or as a rainy day fund. Now, having said that, your special reserve fund is very well funded. But the idea of a special reserve fund is typically to address capital projects, and so the idea of the special reserve fund is to draw down on those funds and get that fund closer to zero, whereas you want to keep any excess funds in the corporate fund. So that when I constructed this model, moving forward, I did not transfer any funds from the corporate fund to the special reserve fund. You can see for the next 4 years here, there's 0 transfers from the corporate fund to the special reserve fund until the fund balance in the corporate fund starts to reach 50%. 50% of the general fund expenditures. At that point, that is, particularly from a rating agency perspective, if you're going to go issue bonds, that's going to be seen as a healthy fund balance for the corporate fund. And so the rest of the model then assumes the fund balance to remain at around 50%. And so then I'm going to transfer funds from the corporate fund to the special reserve fund in order to maintain that 50% fund balance level. And then by the end of the model in 2040, we're looking at nearly $4 million of fund balance in the corporate fund, which is just used in order for, if COVID or some other pandemic hits again, and for some reason the library is not able to generate any property tax revenues. This is the dollars that would be available to the library to have it continue operating at the same level. And so essentially you would have 6 months worth of funds in order to operate without generating a dime of any additional revenue. And then in the special reserve fund, after taking into account all of the expenses that would be generated in the, according to the capital maintenance plan that the library has, as well as taking into account the project in 2027 in order to, for which the borrowing would be used, there is a fund balance in the special reserve fund of over $4.8 million. And so when you take into account the fact that the general fund, would have almost $4 million, and the special reserve fund we're projected to have, $4.8 million, we're looking at, roughly $9 million of available dollars for the library. And so by my estimation, that is a very comfortable financial profile. It's a very healthy financial profile. And also, it's not one that I or rating agencies or other finance professionals would say is too healthy of a fund balance, because you want that general fund to be maintained at a 50% level, and you want the special reserve fund to be built up so you can address future capital expenses or future capital projects as they may occur. And one caveat here before I conclude, actually let me go to this picture right here. This is the general fund. And you can see the bars here there are no bars because there's no fund balance. We're building up that fund balance. And the green line is the anticipated revenues, and the blue line is the anticipated expenditures over the course of the model. And you can see that the dynamic that's being created is that the gap between the revenues and expenditures is getting narrower as time goes on. And it's not necessarily because I believe that the library is going to generate less revenues, going to steadily generate less revenues and have their expenditures grow, but we use that assumption to build a model in order to create a conservative forecast for the library. So most of the time, if this reflected reality, I would say there's going to be a problem for the library in the future, right? You will be deficit spending at some point in the future. I don't think it's a reality. It's simply the way that we built the model so that there are conservative assumptions informing the model. But even with the conservative assumptions, and the reason why I bring this up is, even with the conservative assumptions, you're still able to maintain that 50% fund balance and nearly $4 million of general fund balance in the corporate fund. A couple other graphs in here. This is the property tax increase that is simply following what is allowed under state law. And then there's the graph for the special reserve fund. You can see it gets built up and then it's spent. It gets built up and then it's spent. It gets built up. That's what you want to see in a special reserve fund, right? Special reserve fund is not a fund to just build up reserves for an emergency. It's built up in order to be used for capital expenditures. The corporate fund balance is the one that you want to see steadily being built up, because that's the fund that you're using for emergency situations. So basically, in general, I thought that the library was in a very healthy place. Obviously, I think it's being run by an administration and board that makes good financial decisions. And yeah, I think you should feel pretty comfortable about how the library is going to look in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think just caveat being that the last time we ran a referendum was for this building. And the land was donated to us for this building from Montgomery, Village of Montgomery, actually by way of England, I think. It was actually who gave us the land at the bequest of, or behest of Montgomery. And we said at that time when we did this, that in the future, when we needed another campus, that we were going to try to put aside any monies that were left over each year. We don't spend it at the end of the year to spend it. If we had any money left over, we'd save it in a special reserve, and we'd use that to buy down the cost of our next campus. And we made no secret of the fact that we're acquiring land now for a new campus in Montgomery, and we're also acquiring land in Oswego with the help of the Village of Oswego for another new campus. So we know that's in our future, and our plan back then was to do exactly this with a special reserve fund, so that we wouldn't have to go to the voters and ask for all of a new campus, but we could help pay for that, some of it ahead of time.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
So I'm pleased that it's working.
Yeah, it is. It is.
I would suggest if you can come back, I think a bigger, a more depth, drilling down more in some of these numbers with a finance committee would be very helpful.
Absolutely, I'd love to do that. Happy to do so.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions right now?
Yeah, I have a couple. So on the 5% assumption, so that's 5% a year for the next 20 years.
Yes.
If you had looked back from today, back 20 years, was it 5% a year?
Let's see, we do have some historical numbers in here. So going back to levy year 2017, which coincides with the library's fiscal year 19, 4.45%, 5.63, 4.84. Couple of years where it was under, so it's roughly 5%.
Okay, that gives me a base. Good.
Yeah.
And then about this particular spreadsheet, the data, is this accessible to us? Is it going to be accessible to the public?
Yes.
No, I mean the spreadsheet, not our
Spreadsheet.
copy, the actual
The
spreadsheet.
spreadsheet, I can make it accessible to, I can send a version of it to the library. There will be certain cells that are locked and hidden, but there are other cells that you can play with. So for example, if you think that $20 million for new property is not realistic, it's really going to be $10 million, you can change that and see how it impacts the course of the model. Or if you think 5% is too aggressive and you think really it's going to be 3%, you can change that and you can see the impact of the model. Or if you think it's not aggressive enough, again, you can change that. And then you can see, when you get to the corporate fund, you see all these percentages at the top here. These are all the assumptions that we used. So you would be able to change these assumptions in the version that I would send to the library and see how that impacts the model. Of course, the administration and I worked on these assumptions, these percentages, and determined this was probably the most appropriate, but if you have a different opinion, you can.
Now, is there any reason anything in here should not be out in the public domain?
I think some of it might be copyrighted. I mean, it's a model.
Yeah, well, so, essentially we don't want to get into in the hands of our competitors, how the calculations are derived, if this model were to be distributed to other libraries.
So that I understand, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So the information, how do we get that out to the public? Is there a better way to do that?
You're free to post this or a
Like
version of this.
screenshots of it.
Sorry?
like screenshots of it as opposed to releasing the spreadsheet.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be happy to post the spreadsheet as well, but it's just gonna, a lot of it's gonna be locked and hidden,
Yeah.
to protect, you know, PMA's proprietary information. But yeah, you can post this to your website if you'd like. Yeah, what the library does with this after we send it to the library is totally up to you all.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, number 6, approval of minutes. Could I have a motion, please?
Make a motion to approve the regular minutes of November 15th and the closed minutes of November 15th.
Second.
Okay. Questions, comments, corrections? Hearing none, roll call again?
Waller,
Yes.
Conan, yes. Deal,
Here.
Friedman,
Yes.
Harder,
Yes.
Ramirez,
Yes.
Campbell.
Yes. Okay, financials. Take a look at those. Sarah?
Nothing, well, it was a good financial state that you saw. Didn't want to say that. We did have CTS of Illinois do our annual sprinkler, so that one is in there. And also TJ's door service came during the coldest days of the year. Our front door at Oswego was not working, so we MacGyvered a way to get it in and out. It's an older reference, but that's under TJ's. And then also there was a leak, and they came out and fixed the leak as well in the roof. So.
I think there's a lot of leaks these days. We were delivering Meals on Wheels this afternoon. We went to an apartment complex for seniors, and Servpro of Kendall County was 14 trucks in front of it. What a mess. Okay, could I have a motion on the,
I make a motion to approval of the fund balance and revenue and expense reports.
Second.
second? Any other questions, comments? Roll call, Jim?
Deal,
Yes.
Friedman,
Yes.
Martyr,
Yes.
Ramirez,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Waller,
Yes.
Conan, abstain.
Accounts payable, Sarah?
Nothing unusual, as I said, except for the TJ service and the weather guard. Everything else is a similar bill to what we've had in the past, and everything is within budget.
Could I have a motion on the accounts payable, please?
I'll make a motion. Approval of the December 2023 bills in the amount of $319,115 and January 2024 bills in the amount of $483,991.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, roll call please, Jim?
Deal,
Yes.
Friedman,
Yes.
Martyr,
Yes.
Ramirez,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Waller,
Yes.
Conan, abstain.
Okay, director's report, Sarah?
In the last 2 months, we've had 430 new patrons registered. We had 98,117 items circulated. And on Tuesday, February 6th, we're meeting with our consultant to discuss what we'd like to have in the bookmobile. Very excited about that. And also congratulations to Bill Thurston. He's a YA librarian who's now accepted the outreach manager position where the outreach vehicles will be in his department. So he'll be part of that. Very excited. And that was all. Oh, I'm sorry, we also had 2 suggestions. Somebody wanted us to have a Christmas party and to bring back some more fun tablets and better prizes.
Weren't you gonna toot our horn just a little bit more about the village service?
Oh, I'm sorry. So the village survey, I went and say after they had a great survey. Once again, we came in second to the fire department, which seems to be pretty traditional, but we're very happy that we're the second, most highest one on the top
1
there.
point.
By 1 point.
One
Who
point.
got that point? We're coming for him. We're coming for him.
Okay, I think, could I have a motion to approve the director's report?
I'll make a motion to approve the director's report.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, Jim?
Ramirez,
Yes.
Hamblin,
Yes.
Wallers,
Yes.
Conan, yes. Deal,
Yes.
Friedman.
Yes.
Martyr.
Yes.
Okay, committee reports. I don't think, didn't have any committee meetings over Christmas. So do we need any committee meetings?
We'll need one in February for personnel.
Okay. Personnel, February. We'll have that directly after our regular meeting, if that's okay for the personnel committee. Very good. Thank you. That's on February 24th, I want to say.
28th, the 28th, yeah.
28th? Everything slid down to the end of the month. Okay. Moving on to unfinished business. Creek Walk update.
We are meeting with the Village of Oswego and the Oswego Land Park District to do a group thing for a walk behind the library at Oswego. We'll be meeting with them next week, so I'll have more information on that as we move forward with that project.
Okay, now we're up to the fun part of the decennial, did I say it right this time?
That's right.
I always get that wrong. The decennial committee, this is an agenda item, you have it in your packet. I'd invite the designated community members, if any are present, to be included in the review and vote. No one here? Okay. There's a 4-page document in your packet with revisions from their meeting, suggestions that they made. So at this time, I would ask for a motion to approve the report of the Local Government Efficiency Act for the Decennial Committee. So with that, I would ask for a motion.
Here, I'd like to make a motion for approval of the report for the Local Government Efficiency Act.
Thank you.
Second.
Second? Any questions or comments about this? This was a new requirement for us that was passed, what, a couple of years ago?
Last year, and then we do it again in 10 years.
In 10 years. I look forward to that. Could I have a roll call, please, Jim?
Conan, yes. Deal,
Yes.
Friedman,
Yes.
Martyr,
Yes.
Ramirez,
Yes.
Hamblin,
Yes.
Wallers.
Yes.
Okay, per capita grant 2024. Let's see anything, oh, Krista.
Every year we have to submit a per capita grant. It has a list of core standards for Illinois libraries to try to meet, a couple thousand bullet points, and we just are submitting what we will be working on for the upcoming year to meet all the standards that they require for libraries.
And we have, it will be submitted.
Yes, it's, yeah.
Okay. Could I have that motion, please?
I'll motion to approve the submission of the per capita grant for 2023.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions? Roll call. Jim?
Ramirez,
Yes.
Hamblin,
Yes.
Wallers,
Yes.
Conan, yes. Deal,
Yes.
Friedman,
Yes.
Martyr.
Yes.
So in doing the grant, is this the number you came up with for savings?
Krista did that.
That's a different thing. That we ran a report for all the items that were checked out last year. and how much it would have cost people to purchase these items, and came up with a amount that they save by using the library.
So by using the library, our patrons save $7,854,613. But who's counting? Okay. Okay, moving on. Staff training days, sir.
The staff went and saw a great presenter, and they'd like to set our date for staff training for August 2nd, which is our typical date right after summer reading, so that they could lock down this presenter, make sure that this person is able to do it for the staff.
Okay, say just a bit about de-escalation and staff.
It is run by 2 former police officers. It's RJM Strategy Group, I think they are called. De-escalation, they focus on, and a lot of it's related to like when they were police officers, how if, you know, you are telling someone you have to follow this rule or else, you're really kind of escalating the situation when, you know, a different approach could calm things down and kind of eliminate the issue. So we thought that would be really helpful for staff, and then they would also do one, we haven't had a active shooter training in about 10 years, so we would also be having that.
Very good. So you're looking for a day to do that, August 2nd, 2024.
Yes.
Okay. Could I have a motion, please?
Make a
Oh, go ahead, go ahead,
No, no.
go ahead, please.
Make a motion to approve to close the library on Friday, August 2nd, to hold staff training day focused on de-escalation and staff safety.
And I'll second it
Thank you. Any other questions for Sarah? Sure. Roll call.
Wallers,
Yes.
Conan, yes. Deal,
Yes.
Friedman,
then. Yes.
Martyr,
Yes.
Ramirez,
Yes.
Hamblin.
Yes. Okay, non-resident cards.
A motion we have to do every year in order to provide and individuals who live in school district 308 have the opportunity to purchase a card. At the tax bill method meeting, they would pay the same as somebody who's paying taxes within the library district. This has to be approved by the board before we are able to do that starting July 1st, 2024.
And this is mainly for probably Nailsea Township,
Exactly.
which is not, you're part of the school district, but not part of the library district.
Exactly.
Okay. Could I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to provide non-resident cards for 1 year, starting July 1st, 2024, using the tax bill method of payment.
Second.
Thank you. Any other questions? Jim?
Ramirez,
Yes.
Hamblin,
Yes.
Wallers,
Yes.
Conan, yes. Deal,
Yes.
Friedman,
Yes.
Martyr.
Yes.
Okay, then, by the capital facilities plan with PMA, we're simply accepting what they presented to us.
Right.
There's no action on it or
Right.
anything like that. Okay. But we will take it up again at the finance committee meeting, just so we can get to know a little bit better. Okay. With that, it's time for public comment. Public comment is limited to 30 minutes. The board will now receive public comment concerning items on this agenda, as well as communications and reports from citizens or representatives from other agencies. Such comments should not include discussion of personnel matters, which should be brought directly to the attention of our director. The board meeting is a meeting held in public. It's not a meeting of the public. It is the prerogative of the president of the board to recognize members of the audience. If you are recognized to address the board, you are asked to stand, identify yourself, and address the whole board. Your comments are limited to 3 minutes. With that, we have Glenn.
Glenn Boyle, new resident, new library patron. I love it. You guys do a great job. I think your opening statement actually said it best, hit the nail on the head. Inclusive. Keep doing what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Margaret?
I'm Margaret Sheen from Oswego, and first I'd like to thank the board and the library for already providing the voter assistance kiosk. Because of the location of the Montgomery Library being next to 3 other counties, we tend to get other voters from outside the county to come here, especially in early voting. And they can't vote here because they're from other counties, so they can be directed to their kiosk to find out where their early voting place is. And it was so successful. It wasn't, you didn't see it being used all the time, but when it was used, it was important that it was used. So I want to thank you, and I want to thank your help for that.
If I may, would you please check it, make sure that all of the links are up to date and correct, because
Okay,
I had to do a bunch of working on that.
But I want to thank you all for that. Second of all, I've been coming to these board meetings and listening to both sides of what's been going on. And except for when children were compared to, I've been pretty quiet about this, but so when children were compared to squirrels, and I laughed out loud because that is hysterically funny. But I do want to know, what kind of Marxist hellscape are they planning? Because in the October meeting, they asked for the children's birth date to be put into the database, and I've been designing databases for 30 years, and I know you don't put in a new field unless it's going to be linked to something else. And for children's birthdays to be put in, should not be the decision of just one parent's proposal. It should be for other parents to decide within the district, because you can ask the policeman here what the name and database and date of birth would do to find information. So I am really shocked and upset by what the proposals coming out of some of the participants here. Also, when we say that, they present that they are not interested in banning books, and then the next sentence is what banning they will provide. So that's upsetting. I am very much pro-librarian, and I think that this library especially has done a stellar job. And I don't think that banning of books would be helpful to any person within the library district. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm glad we were able to take care of that voter thing for you.
It is excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks to Bob and staff. Jennifer, Stan?
Hi, my name is Jennifer Stan. I'm a resident of this community. I'm a taxpayer in this community. I have a library card in this library. The reason I came tonight is I noticed that on the agenda, I believe in October, there were some commenters from outside our community. And I heard that there was some harassment of the library. And I wanted to speak as a member of the community of how good this library has been to my family. I honestly would like to say that, it's the law, as I understand it in Illinois, that we would use funding at this point if we were to start banning books. And obviously, beyond free thought, as a taxpayer, I'm overjoyed to pay a couple $100 for my daughter to check out hundreds of books in a year. I'm saving exponential amounts of money with that tax payment, and I would pay more. But to find out we would actually be so fiscally irresponsible to risk losing funding and denying services. And I'm not suggesting the library board is, but even that be a suggestion is crazy to me. My daughter probably checks out hundreds of books a year. She's been doing that since we moved here. And she's been doing that all throughout elementary school. And she ranks in the top 90% in ELA. And I'd like to thank the library for that. I couldn't have afforded all of those books. That would have been thousands of dollars in a year. And so if books aren't something that, you know, for certain books, if I'm certain people, I don't check them out. You know, I read through these books before, if I'm unfamiliar, if they're controversial, and I haven't found one yet that I haven't let her read. You know, but at the same time, that's the parents' job, and it's also not members of the, you know, who don't even live in our community's job to determine what our community is going to be reading. So I thank you for everything you've done for my family. I thank you for, you know, doing your job every day. I'm sorry you need security at the meeting. Thank you for showing up, though. But, you know, this really should just be a happy place, so I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Chuck?
Hello, yeah. My name is Chuck Lederman, and I've lived in Oswego for the last 40-plus years. I raised 2 children who attended the Oswego schools, and I can proudly say that they're leading reasonably successful lives at this point. I retired as after having a private practice in social work for over 30 years. And I must confess that my use of the Oswego Public Library for many years consisted of checking out gobs of wonderful children's books. And now in my retirement, either checking out books or making requests for interlibrary books. In the many interim years, I was both too busy and exhausted to be able to read. I've always felt very pleased with the range of books available in the library. And if they don't have a particular book, their willingness to attempt to find one, and even on several occasions to purchase a book that I had requested. But I'm not here only to extol the wonderful quality and experience I've had with the library system. More to the point, I wanted to offer my 2 cents worth about having heard in a past meeting about questions about both the content of some books related to sexual education, gay, bisexual, and trans youth, to information and ideas not healthy for their development. I decided after hearing concerns raised to check out and read several of them. I want to share that the books appeared to me to be placed in age-appropriate sections, and the contents of the books provided youth with important, real, genuine information about the kinds of things young people want and need to know. Some of this information was very refreshing and heartwarming to know that a young person can gain access to specific discussions about issues related to sexual education, negotiation of relationships with romantic partners, and a lot more through the privacy of books and their respectful manner. I want to commend the community, which is represented by the breadth of information of its library, making it available to its citizens in offering not only young people, but people of all ages, the opportunity to learn about lots of worlds most of us will not have the luck and privilege to experience in person. I believe it's the responsibility of the parents of children to be aware of what their children are reading and exposed to in all areas of their lives, to the best of their abilities, understanding that we can't be hovering over our kids' shoulders 24/7. And to engage in a dialogue and set limits on what they're comfortable having them exposed to at various ages of their lives and their emotional maturity at any stage of life. So thank you for offering the opportunity and the chance to engage with you in evolving our library to represent the best in all of us.
Let's see, is it Jan?
My name is Jan Litving. I lived in Oswego since 2007. I go to the library all the time, like twice a week. And I was concerned after attending the last meeting about the public discussion, so I decided to look more into the difference between how I felt and others did. So I wrote, I have always loved libraries and the dedication of library staff. I remember going to the public library with my dad as a child. I would come home with lots of books. My dad would spend time at the library looking through the yellow pages. The yellow pages were like phone books, you could look things at. And he would contact addresses and phone numbers for his business. My dad worked for a newspaper as a compositor, kind of topography. And he also had a printing business. So we're talking about the 1950s here, which is decades ago. But my dad would also look at other sections of the library, including science, religion, and books. I also got to take home books from my elementary school library. One early memory is I got to take out a book called The Phantom Toll by Norton Juster without it being formally processed and recorded in the library. I felt really honored the librarian let me take the book home. Throughout my life, books and many other things helped me get a sense of who I was and who I wasn't, gratefulness to have what I did, empathy towards those who weren't like me, and align myself with causes that I believe encourages us to be better citizens. At the last board meeting, several people expressed concerns about materials in the library for adolescents and some for children that they didn't think were appropriate. I felt some of the viewpoints were exaggerated or not true. I knew that censorship in schools and libraries had been going on all over the country and doubling within the last 2 years. One of the concerns was about adolescents in terms of sexual imagery, the subjects covered, and sexuality, including gender and sexual identity. And I, like Chuck, decided to check out some books and read them. One book that was mentioned was Gender. Yeah. I know that book was on ban list in the entire country, which made me really well and really become more informed. So the issue of censorship is not new. It includes books, films, newspapers, and religious doctrines. It has past included book burning, prison terms, and the dislocation of individuals and groups considered to have unwanted beliefs or that other people found threatening. It's been going on for centuries. It comes and goes at certain times when people on this planet create tension. There's a tension, many times to disagree. As opposed to when I was small, libraries and schools are now bombarded with claims about censorship and removing books. And it turns out like 40% of the requests have to do with books that do have to do with gender. 40% have to do with issues of racial identity. And there's another 20% in there. So I just believe that restricting certain information discourages freedom of thought, reduces our capacity for tolerance, expression, and democracy. In Illinois, Pittsburgh just signed the House Bill 2789 that it makes Illinois the first state to outlaw book ban. And we'll have to see what happens.
Jan,
Yeah.
we do have a 3.
Yeah, I will stop. Thank you, everyone, very much. I really appreciated the library.
Barb.
Thank you. I am from Plano, but when my kids were little, we had a lot of bike rides and used this library, and you were kind enough to let my library card work, so I appreciate that too. On this first meeting of 2024, I would like to highlight that all of us in this room are living in an essential, that is, an indisputable timeline. at which 2,024 years ago something so significant happened that all the dating of human history started over. Years became labeled as before or after. And just a few weeks ago, board members and patrons alike acknowledged that we have made it into the 2024th year after. In light of this, I would suggest to the board that it would be wise to investigate carefully the tremendously massive occasion of that timeline moment and what impact it must have on the policies this board makes, as well as how it handles its decision-making processes. This DVD, which is from the library, Monumental, The Search for Discovering America's National Treasure, might be a helpful place to start. It discusses a beautiful granite monument erected in Plymouth, Massachusetts in the 1800s, illustrating, for all who will view it, 5 aspects of the massive occasion, or 5 applications of it, which our forefathers understood to be crucial and highly esteemed for successful, worthwhile, national, local, leader, and we the people life. I am bringing this to your attention because in the board meetings of 2023, I observed resistance to the guarding of sexual purity for our children, as well as indifference to procedural integrity when voting on policy, both of which are serious affronts to the massive occasion of 2,024 years ago. This massive occurrence paved the way for us to understand that sometimes those who direct or lead are wolves in sheep's clothing and are aligned with post-fallen angel who has a liar and a thief of things pertaining to both body and soul. I am concerned because the aforementioned affronts are of this nature. I would like to also point out to the board members that another massive event is on the near horizon of our human history timeline. It is called the Great and Terrible Day of the Lord. The Book of Books tells us all about it. If you do not have a copy, perhaps the library can find one for you. It is with all earnestness that I suggest that you investigate how to prepare for the Day of the Lord, including how you should conduct your library leading affairs, so that what each board member faces is great and not terrible when this Day of the Lord unfolds. God has been telling his people that it is soon, and I am here tonight on your behalf because I have taken this to heart. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike?
Hello, Mike Kremsky, patron of the Oswego Library District. You may be wondering why we keep coming back to address this board. The Declaration of Independence states that humans are only willing to suffer evil for as long as evil remains sufferable. Well, the evil is no longer sufferable. This board has crossed that line. It is our duty, according to the U.S. and Illinois Constitution, to instruct this board to uphold the fundamental principles of this nation with regard to licentiousness and local codes about pornography for minors. America has strayed far from its foundation. The Founding Fathers knew that this would happen, and they gave us a roadmap to return to our founding principles. They understood that a free society needed a moral compass to survive. They understood that the documents they wrote would not be enough to secure those rights. They understood that we needed God's blessing to be a free and prosperous people. America was founded in covenant with Jesus Christ. He will not let your decision stand. Christ's righteousness will transform this nation. Deuteronomy 30:19-20. I have set before you life and death, the blessing and the curse. So choose life in order that you may live, you and your descendants, by loving the Lord your God, by obeying his voice, and by holding fast to him. For this is your life and your length of your days. James 4:17. So whoever knows the right thing to do and fails to do it, for him it is sin. And Romans 12:2. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God, for what is good, acceptable, and perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris?
Hi, my name's Chris. I grew up in Montgomery. I moved around a little bit in the intervening years, but I live in Montgomery again. I'm from here. I wrote something today thinking that I would need to come and rail against fascism, and I think for the most part I do not. For the most part. But then, I'll read it anyway. So, who could have imagined that it would be necessary to come to a rural library board meeting in order to protect the very soul of our great nation from being overtaken by fascists? But here we are. Maybe you think that was overstated or paranoid. It is not. These miscreants are eroding democracy by death of 1,000 cuts. They're doing it here by demanding that some completely normal expressions of humanity be officially suppressed. Their ilk does this elsewhere through intimidation, voter suppression, and swatting. The goals are the same: define certain people as other and make it acceptable to abuse those others. Uh-oh, I'm missing a page. Here it is. People do not deserve to be excluded from society based on their, again, completely normal human experiences. And this board has a special responsibility to protect their representation in the face of authoritarian attempts to quite literally write people out of existence. A vibrant and just community requires everyone to be included so that we can respectfully disagree and find consensus. The Oswego Public Library District Board certainly did not sign up for this nonsense, but they persevered. And you know what? I didn't miss a page. I got the middle one out of order. But you know what? This makes a good ending anyway. To you fascists, nobody is forcing you or your children to consume library materials that you don't like. You are completely free to not take advantage of the resources provided by the Oswego Public Library District. You're here, as I understand it, every month to browbeat this board into restricting everyone's access to informative and creative work because you don't like it. Pray tell, if you were somehow successful, what would be your next target? What would be your next other? Because I'm quite confident that you will not stop with this. And for the kids who've joined us, it's okay to laugh at grown-ups when they're being silly.
Thank you. Erica?
Hi. I first want to thank the library for just being an absolute perfect spot to go. I have a young son, and when we first moved out here, we were a little uncertain of where we had moved to. And going into the children's section of the library was a breath of fresh air for me as a mother. Seeing that I could check out books that aligned with my views and my goals of how I want to raise my son, to be a good, empathetic human who accepts people for who they are, who's open-minded to other points of view, who can think for himself and not be controlled by other people because he's told he can't question authority or question people who are older than he is or question me. I grew up going to the library every single week, multiple times a week as a kid, and books were always my safe place. I learned about different people, I learned about different perspectives. I read books that are on the list of books that should be banned, and all they did was lead me to want to learn more about those people. It has made me a more empathetic person. It has made me a better person. I am not a Christian. I do not believe the country was formed by Jesus or for Jesus. It's formed for everybody. It's formed so that everybody can have their own viewpoint and live peacefully together. And if you don't like my viewpoint, that's fine. I don't have to like yours either. It doesn't make me a bad person, it doesn't make you a bad person. If you don't like how I choose to mother my child, that's fine. I don't have to like how you mother yours. But that's the beautiful thing about being in this country, is that we have choice. So if I want to check out books for my son that you don't like, that's on me. If I don't want to check out your favorite books because they maybe are things I'm not interested in, I won't check them out. It's that simple. We do not need to tell people what they can and cannot do. As was mentioned in the beginning about, I'm gonna not get your quote right, that you mentioned about the library being a place free of judgment, and it was so perfectly stated. So, in short, do what makes you happy, and if it doesn't make you happy, ignore it. Leave it alone. Don't force other people to make the choices that you've made for yourself, because I have no interest. Thank you.
Alexi?
I'm Alexi, I love the library, and I'm talking about Harry Potter, because it was on the list of banned books. And I believe it shouldn't be banned. It's such an amazing series. I could not put it down when I started reading it. I just read it nonstop. I do a lot of things based off wizard stuff, and it's been banned because of magic, and I don't know why, because it's just magic. There's plenty of books about magic. Like, why ban one book about magic but not the other? So that's why I believe Harry Potter should be banned.
My grandchildren love Harry Potter.
I love Harry Potter.
And I was an administrator in a middle school when Harry Potter came out. And two of my parents, we had a child who won this scholastic scholarship right to go to New York for Harry Potter. And they brought me back a signed copy by J.K. Rowling, which I gave to my grandkids. Cool. Okay, where am I? Jackson.
So I'm going to be talking about I'm Jackson. I'll be talking about the family book. The family book is banned because they have the same gender parents. This book is about celebrating families and all varieties they come in. And then
I'm sorry. I'll hold it up and take a read. It's hard, there's some notes.
one reason I think this book should not be banned because in all states there are same-gender parents. Another reason I think this book shouldn't be banned is because it shows different types of parents caring for a child. And my last reason this book shouldn't be banned is because this is for young readers and caregivers. So I would not like this book to be banned.
And get along. Rain?
I know.
Hi, my name is Rain, and I'm talking about the book Drama and Why It Shouldn't. So why it's banned book is many complaints that it was political, racially, or socially offensive, and that the material was really sexually the book didn't include any contact warning or it to ban teens. Of two boys kissing. But why it shouldn't be banned is because it prepares teens about
it prepares teens about their life. Also, if you want to become an actor, this is a person that shows you what it would be like if you were in the club, in the drama. And another reason why it shouldn't be banned is I think even though that there wasn't a warning about even though there wasn't a warning about it, the age range for this book was 8 to 11. And personally, I don't know, but I think they would not be too over dramatic about two boys kissing. And if you didn't want your kids to read the book, you probably should have got it for them, or you probably should have looked it up. And if you bought it for them, or you don't want them learning about it yet, then you should stop it. We look about the book, they ask about this book, then you can proofread it and then look at it and learn it stuff.
Okay. Sharon, is it Ellen and George?
It's Gio and Eleni. They're siblings, but they're in 2 different books, if that's okay.
Oh, sure.
Okay, for some reason, one of my favorite books is banned, and it's called The Giving Tree. The Giving Tree is a book about a boy that loves this tree, and the tree loves the boy. And I don't know why, but apparently I looked up banned books, and it says this, and it's considered sexist. What? It can't be sexist because they're caring for each other, and these are my reasons why it should not be banned. Reason number 1, the boy makes a friend. Even though it's a tree, it's still a friend. And reason number 2, it has a moral of sharing, because the tree gives the little boy, as he grows up, a lot of stuff. It doesn't matter if it's just a place to sit or having a boat to sail away, or like having his trunk or branches or apples. It doesn't matter. He's still happy, and the tree was happy. So the line sharing is caring is true. And reason number 3, people, the tree and the boy are polite and nice to each other. They never say mean things, and it can't be bad for kids. And it's not bad to anyone. It's not even, I don't know why people say it's sexist, because it's not sexist. It's just a boy in a tree.
Another reason why this shouldn't be banned is because it's one of Dr. Seuss's original books. And a lot of kids love Dr. Seuss because it helps them learn. And another one is the book also teaches kids who read it that it's important to help the environment, because when the trees were dying, it showed that nothing was living, and that shows kids that without trees, no life can live in the world.
Every once in a while I get reminded why I spent 40 years in education.
Mr. Tamlin, is it possible that you skip my name on the list?
I don't see it.
Would I be able to speak? Or? This is a word for the board. It came out on January 16th. Enemies of Almighty God, I see each one of your camps. I see each one of your plans. I see each one of you, what you are doing. Well, I will tell you, my hand is stopping you, and nothing in your arsenal can stop me or my power. You are unleashing your great plans, so you think. Well, my plans are greater and mightier than yours, because I am greater, and I am mightier than you, and anything you can try to come up with. You have not outsmarted me, because I am the Most High God, and I know the end. And your end, enemies of Almighty God, is coming, and it's closer than you think. You have lost your grip on the world. You have lost your grip and the narrative across the globe. You have lost it. You have lost your power in this hour, and I am going to show you mine. I am going to show you my vengeance, enemies of Almighty God. I'm going to show you that I am still the Most High God. I am still avenger of my children, and I still deliver my children from the hands of the wicked. I do not change, despite you putting doctrines into the body of Christ. I am showing my body that I do not change, and my word does not change. My word goes forth, and it is everlasting. There is nothing that will change that. This is my nation. I say again, this is my nation, and the world is about to know who is in control of this nation. It is not the government that sits in that supposed capital. I am washing, I am cleansing, I am moving like never before. Thank you.
With that said, I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session for the purchase or lease of real property.
I move we go into executive session.
Second.
Jim, roll call?
Friedman?
Yes.
Martyr? Ramirez?
Yes.
Hamblin?
Yes.
Wallace?
Yes.
Conard? Yes. Deal?
Yes.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.